last video, you may have heard me mention sensor of interest. We're going to figure out what that means. The sensors for the A10 are what allows the plane systems to interact with the outside world. There are 4 sensors: the Tactical Awareness Display, or TAD, the Targeting Pod, or TGP, the Maverick Missile Seeker Camera, and the HUD. Only one of these sensors can accept input at a time. The currently selected sensor is called the sensor of interest, or SOI. There are 2 ways to select a sensor of interest. You can either press the button representing that sensor again, or you can hold the coolie hat left for a couple of seconds to make the current sensor on the left MFD sensor of interest, or hold the coolie hat right to make the currently displayed sensor on the right MFD your sensor of interest. If you tap the coolie hat up, you will make the HUD your sensor of interest. You can see a small asterisk on the left of the HUD when it is SOI. Holding a hat in a direction for a couple of seconds is called long, and tapping a hat in a direction is called short. The previous commands will most likely be read to you as coolie hat left long or coolie hat right long by other pilots, and from here on out in these videos. Your current sensor of interest will have a green outline around the MFD. The other sensors that are displayed but are not SOI will read "not SOI" at the bottom. This video will only cover the basics of each sensor. Let's start with the TAD. The TAD is useful for seeing your friends and to be able to see what they are seeing. To see members in your group, you must first set a common group ID and a unique own ID. To do this, press NET on the right and you'll see your current group and own ID. To change these, enter the desired ID with the upfront controller keypad under the HUD, then press the button for group or own ID to change it to your entry. All aircraft that have a common group will appear to each other as purple circles. All other aircraft with data link will have green circles. This makes it simple to find your wingman on a mission. Press the upper left button to return to the main TAD page. All sensors can create a point in the world called the Sensor Point of Interest, or POI. This is a point that is designated by one sensor that can be referenced by all the other sensors and certain weapons. Keep this in mind and we'll show you some examples later of why this is important. Every sensor of interest can take input from your slew switch. For the TAD, slewing to an entity on the display and pressing TMS up short will hook an entity. This tracks it in your TAD and gives you a visual display in your HUD, but it doesn't make it your sensor point of interest. Here, I hook the aircraft in the other group and you can see a marker on my HUD, which tells me what direction he's in, and when he's within the viewing angle of the HUD, he will have a box around him. To make something in your TAD your sensor point of interest, first hook it, then press TMS up long. You'll see the wedding cake icon appear over your hooked target. One important feature of the TAD is sharing your point of interest with the group. If you press DMS left long, you'll see SPI on appear in the upper right. Now everyone else will see a line coming from your aircraft to your point of interest on their TAD screen. The next sensor is the Targeting Pod, or TGP. First select TGP, then select air to ground mode. Then make it SOI with the coolie hat or by selecting the TGP button again. As SOI, the TGP can be moved with the slew switch, zoomed with DMS forward and aft, changed to white hot and black hot IR modes with the boat switch, and have its field of view changed with China hat forward. Future videos will go more in depth, but the primary thing the TGP is good for is finding something on the ground and making it your point of interest. To do this, point the TGP at your target and press TMS forward long. You can confirm the sensor of interest on the TAD by looking at the new wedding cake and in the lower left of the HUD where it will read TGP. The next sensor is the Maverick Seeker Camera, so select it, then select it again to make it your SOI. It works exactly like the TGP, except that it has limited zoom and it cannot set a point of interest. It is only used to engage targets. We'll go over how to use the Seeker camera to engage targets in another video. So why are we doing all of this? The sensors work together to facilitate finding and engaging targets. Remember, when you set a point of interest with one sensor, all other sensors can reference it. To do this, press China hat forward long, and all other sensors will snap to the sensor of interest. For example, let's set a point of interest with the TAD and press China hat forward long. Now the other sensors are looking at the point that you marked on the TAD. Another example of the sensors working together is if you find something on the TGP, a diamond will appear over what the TGP is looking at in your HUD. This is useful for finding targets and then having a visual cue to set up a rocket or gun run. Future videos will cover the individual sensors with more depth. Your main takeaways from this lesson is to understand that the A10 has multiple sensors that work together using points of interest that can be set by an individual sensor of interest and how to set and generally manipulate that sensor.